Time now for our rants and raves, starting with you, Callie.
Well, I'm giving David Gregory a rave, believe it or not. David Gregory, late of Meet the Press. He was there for 6 years as moderator before he was forced out.
Summarily kicked
Yeah,
out.
he was
Awful.
definitely, and it was a terrible public,
Yeah.
disposing of. Is now on CNN as an analyst. They brought him in for the Iowa coverage, and they've kept him on. I've always said I never liked him as the moderator of Meet the Press, but I thought he was a very fine reporter. He was always really good. So I've been enjoying his insights on CNN, you see, because I'm switching from Morning Joe, hearing too much Trump, to go over to CNN to see what they're talking about. And he's, I think, offered a lot of very interesting takes on the scene, not only in Iowa, New Hampshire.
CNN had hired him, is that?
Well, as a consultant is all I know, because remember there was that time where they thought maybe he'd go over there, but they did not hire him because he was too expensive. So now, as far as I know, he's just as an analyst, and he'll be there, and maybe something will come of it now that they've actually had him in place. But he seems to be getting along very well with everybody and has some interesting things to say. So good for you, David Gregory.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Dan.
I have a rave for the new inductees to the New England Newspaper Hall of Fame who are going to be honored Friday evening. And, there's 6 of them. I could go on and on about all of them. Walter Robinson of the Globe is one. But I want to single out my friend Stephen Mindich, who founded and ran the Boston Phoenix for so many years. He was a wonderful boss. He put out a great paper. He was a real force in the community, especially when it came to the arts. And this is such a well-deserved honor for him. And I'm really looking forward to being there.
Can I share a quick Steve Mindich anecdote? Because I worked at the Phoenix not as long as you did, but for a bit. You'll remember this, Dan. We would have editorial board meetings. We sort of did double duty since it was an alt-weekly. Stephen wanted to endorse Chris Gabrielli for the Democratic nomination for governor when he was running against Deval Patrick. Everyone else wanted to endorse Patrick. Stephen argued, no, it should be Gabrielli, here's why, made his case, and then said, okay, you guys win, we'll do Patrick. Which I think is just a testament, gives you a little glimmer of what made working at a place like that, working for a guy like him, so special.
Absolutely, and it shows that the Globe isn't necessarily going to endorse Michael Bloomberg.
Well, that's why I brought it up.
Well, I'm a friend of Steve's too. Actually, I'm gonna go to the event and had him on for one of my half-hour specials. One guest a few years ago, and what a character! Great talker, great storyteller, and looking forward to hearing some of his stories tonight. All right, who's up? Adam. Oh, Josh, I think. Sorry, Josh.
My rave is for the San Antonio Express News. When Justice Scalia passed away, it happened in West Texas, and there was a question, who was going to break the story? And this is a story where everyone who knows about it is a federal source. It would have been very easy for the New York Times or the Washington Post or someone with a deep entrenched DC sources to be the ones to break it. But instead, it was the San Antonio Express News. Gary Martin, who's the politics and government editor there, had spent 23 years in DC working for the paper, so he had a lot of federal sources. And when the first person to find out about it decided to call a journalist, they called him.
Really?
And the San Antonio Express News did a good job of getting a second source, confirming it, and being the first to break the story. A lot of other news organizations, of course, followed, within half an hour or so. But nonetheless, at a time when, this is not the most consequential breaking news. I'll confess that. We would have found out that he was dead relatively quickly. But at a time when national media has so increased its dominance over local media, when local newspapers are struggling in so many ways, just a hip tip of the hat to the San Antonio Express News for being the ones to break the story.
Absolutely.
Good. All right. Now we have Adam.
All right, I want to rave for Andrew Ryan, the Globe City Hall bureau chief, who wrote this great piece about how more than 100 city employees who live out of the city and make an average of $190,000 a year have city-funded vehicles, which they drive to and from their homes. The cars are paid for, the maintenance is paid for, the gas is paid for. It's a terrific story in its own right, and also I sometimes get a little guilty opining about Boston city politics since I don't actually live in the city. This was a useful reminder that I have every right to talk about city politics because a lot of people who work there don't live there either. So really a great piece.
I still think the residency requirement is antiquated, onerous, and should be changed, which has nothing to do with driving a city car. From go ahead and live in Situate if you want, but why are you taking a city car?
Get, like everyone else in the world, get to, well, except for maybe some state legislators, get to and from your workplace on your own dime.
Yeah, agree with that. All right, I have tonight a Yeah, it's a rant. What am I talking about? A rant for the Huffington Post UK.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So the editor is doing an interview with somebody and the interviewer says, so tell me, why don't you pay your bloggers? He says, oh, I always love getting asked that question. He says, because when you have unpaid writers, you know you're getting the real story. You're not encumbered by advertisers. You're not trying to sell a message. You just know whatever they're saying is real. What?
I think it's wonderful that editor doesn't get paid and
Yeah,
lives the monastic
exactly.
lifestyle, just up on the top of a mountain
Yeah.
with no clothes.
Pro
or
bono.
anything.
Talk
Yeah.
about
Love
being
journalism.
It's very
unauthentic. You think a
generous to do
blogger
that.
is going to be affected
What a
by what an
jerk.
advertiser?
Imagine how much purer those bloggers would be if they were not only unpaid, but were actually paying the editor
Yeah.
for the privilege of being in the Huffington Post. I saw that. I was just nauseated when I saw it. And I've written for the Huffington Post from time to
Has
time.
there been a walk
do they
back,
pay
Emily?
now at all?
They pay. They do have a paid staff, but the bloggers are not paid.
Still, even the
Still,
ones.
yeah.
Their argument is that the Huffington Post is offering the platform and the audience, and that
Yeah,
they do
right,
have,
right.
to defend the Huffington Post, they do have a staff of several hundred journalists who they do pay perfectly normal salaries to. But yeah, that was a bit much.
Has the editor walked it back at
No,
all?
not that I've
All right,
seen.
we got to remind everyone that Huffington Post was covering Donald Trump as entertainment.
Oh,
so he was
yeah.
never going to go anywhere. So.
They had to change that.
Good news judgment.
That's
All
right.
right.
Joe Scarborough was right?
That is it for our show. Tell us what you think. Email us, tweet us, or leave a comment or always on at beatthepress.org.